Welcome to the Are We Idiots Show, where we question the status quo on society's important issues while mixing in plenty of laughs along the way. Now here are your hosts, Mark Weaver and Rich Kroll.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Are We Idiots Show as the music fades out. How are you today, Richie?
Marcus, I'm doing well. I feel good. My inflammation is not as high as normal.
Take some Advil for that, or
Yeah,
maybe some stronger drugs.
I have a new inflammation-reducing cocktail that has nothing to do with drugs.
Is that your tip of the day? Or no, you're not. You got something else for a tip of the day.
Let me make sure it works first.
You don't want to give out bad advice to our thousands of listeners, do you?
Well, the irony is I've actually given this cocktail out to two friends, and I've only done it 4 or 5 times, but I feel pretty good. So I'm going to wait another week or so.
Is this the thing with the eye of nude or something in it? Some kind of witch's
Stuff like that. There is
witch's brew.
Voodoo witch's brew in it, yes.
Well, welcome everyone. We're going to have a great show for you. And so you don't have a tip of the day for today, right?
I do.
Oh, you do? Okay, I'm sorry. We got miscommunicated.
I wasn't going to
there.
use that one, though, as the tip of the day.
Well, lay it on us before we do the agenda then.
All right, first, before I give you the tip of the day, I do want to, we do like feedback from our listeners.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
we got a pretty good one here from our Boston versus Philly show. This comes from longtime Havertown buddy, Robert Ribby McDonald, who's also the owner of McDonald Painting Company, Facebook page McDonald Paint Co. In case anyone's interested out there in the Havertown, Delaware County area. But
Did he pay for that spot, by the way? Or we might have to send him a bill for that promotional.
a bill is going out to him for
okay.
that promo. But and that is McDonald Paint Co. on Facebook page.
All right, you're going to become a patron.
The podcast was very entertaining. You are definitely carrying the humor on this show. Your buddy from Beantown was a typical New England strap job. The only thing worse than a Red Sox fan is a New York Met tool bag. I do take exception to the bashing of the vehicle city, the birthplace of General Motors. The only worst city in America. Has your partner never been to Camden, New Jersey? How about Atlantic City, the only cheap beach real estate on the Atlantic seaboard, and still nobody wants to live there? All great points, Rib, and I guess my partner can address some of your comments, but all great points in my opinion.
Are you kidding me? I mean, Camden is bad. I think he also brought up Chester or something. But Flint, Michigan? I mean, it's internationally known as a horrible place. That's where I highlighted about it. We did highlight Detroit, but it was also Flint is what we were talking about.
I'm not sure of his affinity for that part of the Midwest,
I guess so. Maybe he must be. Sounds like a Trump voter to me.
Well, I also think he must own a lot of GM cars.
I know my dad's generation, he will never buy a Japanese car. I don't know how I got on this subject, but I've talked to him, and he just, because he's of that age, he was around during World War II, there's nothing that would convince him to buy a Japanese car.
Even though they're so much better made than most American cars.
In most cases, and the history has been of reliability and value, but it doesn't matter. He will not buy one. So.
Him and Kate Smith won't buy one.
No, Kate's got some other issues in her ancestors. So
here's the tip of the day.
Okay, go for it.
So it's that time of year. It's spring break time. Colleges will be done soon and doing their spring breaks, or maybe they just had their spring break. High school spring breaks are coming up down the Jersey Shore and other shore coast areas around the country. So, folks, please don't do, you high schoolers and you college people, please don't do what they're doing now in Australia, which is this craze called balcony hopping.
Sounds very safe.
Which is attempting to move from one hotel room to another by hopping from balcony to balcony outside, including, 4, 6, 10-story, 12 stories in the air. It seems like a fun thing, but
Let me guess, it's not always successful?
the success rate is not as high as you would like it to be. There are reported deaths from, of course, intoxicated teenagers and 20-somethings falling from high balconies to their death. These are on vacations during Australian tradition called Schoolies Week, same as our Senior Week.
Right.
Also similar to college spring breaks. They happen in Australia typically in November, but for us they're April, May, June. So folks, just go out your door and knock on your roommate's or next door neighbor's door and enter that way.
And my guess is, without having read the story, is that a high percentage of them are young males. Because you don't hear teenage girls starting a sentence with, watch this, right? I mean, how many times do you hear teenage boys saying, watch this? They want to show off for their friends and do something stupid. And I guarantee you a high percentage of them are guys.
I'm sure you're right, but the irony was the one of the videos was of a girl. Now, an Australian girl, so maybe they're a little more
masculine.
Daring and masculine than our American girls.
But don't you agree that generally the risk tolerance is not evolved very well in the teenage
100%.
Boys?
Normally, yes.
Like people that are teenagers that would drive a car real fast late at night, like stupid stuff like that. Like who would ever do that?
Mostly males, especially ones I know with red cars.
All right, folks, just a quick reminder that we want you to share your favorite episode. Pick your favorite one. We had a lot of good ones recently. Obviously, some people like the Boston-Philly debate. There was the helicopter parents. There was setting goals. There was the diet and exercise one. There's been a lot of good ones lately. Pick your favorite. Share it with a friend. And by the way, go out and follow us on Twitter at Are We Idiots Show. We need some reviews on iTunes. We need Twitter followers. We're trying to spread the word here, folks. We need your help. And by the way, a little follow-up, 2 follow-ups from previous shows. Last episode, you asked, what was that slaughtering lamb sound? That was a trombone in True Love song from my brother's band.
A trombone?
A trombone.
Never would have guessed it.
I guess it was like a capped trombone or something like that. But yeah, he said it's
that
a trombone.
Wah-wah, I guess it's okay.
And then I wanted to give our listeners an update on our New Year's resolutions. So I have already read 2 of my 4 books. I'm in a little slump this last month. I haven't read anything in the last
impressed.
month. And I am on a 3.6 miles per day average for walking, which is, if you remember back to that show, I had to average 2.7 miles a day. So I'm well ahead of pace to walk well over 1,000 miles in 2019.
I'm also well on my pace to hitting my 217 weight projection. Although I had the whole year to do it, I actually wanted to hit this 217 by Memorial Day, about a 6-month leap. I'm not sure if I'm going to get there, but I am on a good pace to get there.
That's what we wanted to hear. How about your other one was you wanted to be more present, I think, with your family or something like that, and you wanted to not say no. You just wanted to find ways to do things. Those are the other kind of quasi goals.
Spending a lot of quality time.
That?
Yeah, spending a lot of quality time with the wife, daughter, and stepkids when they're even around. So I feel good about it.
Good. We're on a good track. All right. Quickly on this week's show, Idiot of the Week, I have some good nominees. We're going to be pretty quick today, Richie. Then we're going to talk about the changing definition of success. And we're going to talk about the importance of defining success individually, but also kind of generationally how that might be changing.
Let me guess, iGen and millennials have a different view on success than baby boomers.
This is largely true, but again, whenever you talk about groups, there's always a danger that, there's going to be exceptions to that. But yes, we'll get into that. And then we're going to conclude the show with a success checklist.
Wow.
So, based loosely on, well, not loosely, based on Stephen Covey's famous book, 7 Habits of Highly Successful.
You bring
people.
A lot of excitement to people's lives.
And comedy, evidently.
Apparently.
All right, Richie. So here are my Idiot of the Week nominees, and they are very quick today. Police in Redmond, Washington were so astonished they took a photo and put it on Twitter. A social media post said, officers pulled over a driver going 80 miles an hour on Highway 520 to discover he'd stashed Gatorade bottles in his child's car seat while the young girl slept next to it unsecured in the back seat.
Solid move.
This is never okay. There was the caption on the Twitter. Thankfully, the child was fine. Please use the car seats for kids, not Gatorade, the police tweeted out. The man was stopped at 10:30 a.m., and he had explained that his child had fallen asleep and didn't want to wake her.
Of course.
Officers arrested the man on suspicion of reckless endangerment and driving without a license or insurance. Shocking. What? He doesn't have a license, doesn't have insurance, doesn't know how to use a car seat. You've had young kids. When they're sleeping, you can throw them in a car seat. They don't wake up.
Yeah, but let me tell you something. Have you ever been dehydrated?
Very rarely, but
I'll
yes.
tell you, it can be awful. There's cramping, there's memory loss, and if you don't secure your potassium and magnesium, I'll tell you, that it could be more important than a child at that moment.
If he got in the crash, thankfully the Gatorade would have been just perfectly fine. All right, next one. I think I like this one better because coming off this weekend, this big craze this weekend, the Avengers Endgame? Did you hear about this? It actually
Yes, our pastor actually made a joke about it, Mark Tyndall, at our service yesterday, saying, you know, folks, during some of my sermons, I tend to throw out spoiler alerts when I reference a movie like Old Yeller, but it's 65 years old. If you don't know the ending by now, I don't think. But I do have to tell you about the ending to the Avengers. And everybody groaned in the audience. And he goes, just kidding.
Well, it's amazing, Rich. We did not rehearse this at all. I guarantee you, audience, we have not talked about this, but Rich had the perfect setup. As our nominee number 2, a man who obviously didn't get the memo on Avengers Endgame or chose to ignore it was beaten outside a Hong Kong cinema for shouting out spoilers to fans waiting in line to see the film.
He's asking for an ass whooping.
Taiwanese media said the man, who was not identified, was left bloodied outside a cinema in Causeway Bay, Hong Kong, after watching the movie. A photo of the purported victim circulated online and shows him sitting in the street with blood coming out of his head.
What is he thinking? Hey, folks, here's what happens. Folks, before
What a
you go in
jerk.
there, like, you are asking
That should have been
for
your
it.
tip of the day, evidently.
That's like a Dallas Cowboys fan when you show up to an Eagles game in your jersey, which I'm okay with. And if you want to quietly sit there, I'm okay with it. But I've seen these guys stand up in a sea of Eagles green, face the crowd, and egg them on, putting their arms up in the air like, what do you got for me, Eagles fans?
You're just asking for it.
You're just asking for it.
So those are the nominees, Richie. I think I know which one you're going to go with, but
Well, listen, if you're dehydrated and I don't know if you've ever had a calf cramp. They're awful. And you can jerk your foot. You could step on the gas. You could step on the brake. If you're not properly hydrated, you're going to kill your child anyway.
like jamming on the gas.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got to secure that Gatorade, especially after a tough workout. So he gets a pass. Any nitwit, that shouts out on purpose the ending to a highly publicized movie as you're walking into it deserves a bit of a wax down.
That stretches the freedom of speech a little bit.
That stretches it, yeah. So he clearly wins Idiot of the Week. Keep it to yourself. Nobody did that to you when you were walking into the movie before you paid your $20 and $80 for popcorn. So, yeah, he wins.
No, I would not have been happy myself. But anyhow, you'll send him the $1?
I'll send him and that movie theater $1.
All right, folks. So now we're going to transition to our main topic of the day, and it is the changing definition of success. And let me just make a caveat. Whenever you're dealing with groups, as I said earlier, there's going to be exceptions to this, but there's no doubt that groups and stereotypes develop, we've talked about this on a prior show, develop out of some basis of fact. And the facts are that the younger generations, when I say younger, Rich and I are both baby boomers, have a different definition of success. So we're going to talk about that in a moment, but we're also going to talk about why it's important to define success in each individual case. So let's start, Richie, with what is your definition of success? And we realize this is relative, but how do you define success in your own life? I don't mean of others. How do you define it?
Well, the first thing we have to alert everybody on is there's clearly different categories of success. So I would want to be asked more specifically, are you talking about success as
in
a
life.
person?
In life.
With family, with work, with hobbies, sports?
Well, I would say just generally in your life. So let's fast forward many decades from now to your funeral. How would you want your summary of your life to end up? Like, how would you want to be kind of encapsulated?
I think personal accomplishments and personal wealth and personal success viewed in those terms is not necessarily important and surely won't be on your deathbed. As I've joked many times, hey, we're not living back in Pharaoh times and taking as much gold trinkets to our grave as possible to use them in the afterlife. So I don't think it matters how much money you have or...
I didn't say anything about money.
But I'm giving you my definition.
Oh, okay.
By things they are not. So for me, money accumulation, material goods, material wealth, stardom or fame, it may be fun, but it's not important. How I want to be measured when I'm at my funeral was my character and my impact, my positive impact on people when I gave my time and when I tried to help people, when I was charitable, when I was a volunteer, when I influenced people in a positive way without any expectations or expecting anything in return. I want people to say he was a good guy, he helped me, he helped others, he tried to have a positive influence on the world and the people around him. To me, that would measure success from how I look at it.
Yeah, and I think you and I have talked off air multiple times that I think we're both the same when it comes to, I can't think of a worse, I shouldn't say a worse, but I can't think of for me, a worse goal than to just try to accumulate money. I mean, I can't imagine why there are so many people that's what they equate as success. And I don't know why in our culture, maybe it's because we're too material. A lot of people just assume success means money. But I've never viewed it that way. I like the game of working, and I like the challenge of trying to do well at work. But for the purposes of living my life according to my priorities, and that's one of my goals, I define success as living life and spending my time according to my priorities and not wasting time on stuff that doesn't rank.
You're so right. In fact, I just had this conversation with a friend where I said, if you do the right things, if you have ethics and morals and character, and you just do the right things, even if you won't immediately benefit, a lot of that wealth stuff comes, as it relates to doing the right things at work or for others or pursuing hobbies. But I personally I have to say, even friends that are very money motivated to the point to a fault, where they're trying to keep up with the Joneses, with the nicest cars and the biggest house and the biggest pool, and they want people to see, kind of look at me, and it's sad because then you see some behavior and motivation that's not always in their or their families or friends' best interest.
Totally agree. Let me just finish my little checklist of stuff how I define success. So I already mentioned one: live life and spend time according to priorities. Strive to do the best I can with talents, and that goes for both myself and my children. Emphasize the core values of honesty, integrity, open expression, caring for others, and liberty. And then lastly, this is for my wife and I both, have careers that will enable the above lifestyle. And then as far as our children goes, and this is kind of where you said it's different categories, but as far as our children goes, basically to prepare them for the road, which we talked about at the Helicopter Parent show, not to clear the road for them, to prepare them for the tough road of life. So, if we're at my funeral in several decades from now, I'm hoping that, that's what people think that I've done a good job at. And whether I leave my kids $30 million or $30, first of all, no one cares.
They might care.
They might, but I would hate to also have my kids looking forward to my death so they can inherit money. I'm not a big believer in huge inheritances. So, kids, if you didn't know that already, you do now.
I saw a bottle of rat poison in your bathroom. I don't know if that was for actual.
Well, that might have been
rats.
my wife. I have some large insurance policies.
Got it. Got it.
So, before we leave that personal definitions of success, I think we're kind of on the same wavelength there. I mean, basically, to be a good person, have high integrity, high character, have people trust us, help others. It sounds like we're kind of in the same boat, but that's not the norm, I don't think. Like you just
Probably
mentioned.
not the norm. You don't want to be remembered as a libertarian, though. Is that one of
I
yours?
said liberty. I said live a life.
Oh, yeah. So you
live a-
covertly hid the word libertarian in the word liberty.
No, I think liberty is a highly. Here, I'm going to get on my soapbox. Liberty is a highly underestimated value of life. It's right below love, I would say, because if you could even say it's above love. We take it for granted in this
above
country.
love?
Let's think this way: if you were in love but you weren't free,
Well, what does that mean?
How would life
I'm
be?
sending love letters to somebody in jail? That I'm in jail? What do you mean?
Yeah, I'm saying like if you were living in North Korea, but you were in love with your wife and you had that love between you, but you weren't free to do anything. I mean, I don't know. To me, I'd rather
Well,
have.
what if you love God and it doesn't matter where you are? Like Nelson Mandela stuck in an isolated confinement for 28 years, and he still had a positive attitude based on love.
that can work for some people. I'm saying, in my mind, liberty is a highly undervalued trait and right, and I think that we should be more cognizant of it.
Yes.
You're hijacking the show.
On your behalf.
Maybe, yeah. But anyhow, so that's us. All right, now let's move to why do so many people? You mentioned some of your friends. Obviously, I have people that I know that also overvalue material goods, and they equate success with monetary success. Is this something about our culture? I think it is a little bit unique to the United States more than other more established cultures. Why do you think that's come about in our country?
Well, the U.S. has a bit of a bold, brash, we're the biggest, bestest, baddest country in the world. And depending on where you live, you might be in the middle of it. I mean, we live right here, one of the top 10 most affluent areas in the country. And I think people are under a lot of pressure when they're walking by the multi-million-dollar homes and Porsches and Mercedes, and that family's kids are going to the best private schools, and then we have to, and then they're going to go to the best universities, Ivy League, and then we have to, and then look what so-and-so's wearing and how they're dressed, and we have to. I think a lot of people equate keeping up with the Joneses as success, and they get caught up in the clouded goggles view of life just because of their surroundings and their peer groups, and then work, depending on what you do for a living. If you're an executive or a salesperson, you have quotas and you have numbers to hit, then that also, it's kind of a statistical grab, which also then comes with material wealth and accumulating material wealth, and it just manifests and waterfalls itself.
Well, I don't know how you transitioned and it tied in salespeople into that, because I don't know if that's kind of specific to yours and my career or other people in like careers. But generally, I don't understand. I agree with you, but I don't understand that keep up with the Jones or striving for what other people have. I have a lot of bad qualities, as you know, Rich, and we could spend a whole show naming them.
2 shows.
One of my best qualities is I don't envy. I want every one of my friends, relatives, I don't care. I hope they make $100 million. It has no effect on me. I wish them that. If they made that, it wouldn't affect my life at all. I don't think about that. I won't be jealous of that. I'm trying to do the best I can with what I have and what my gifts are. And I don't think about that. And so I don't understand this envy. And envy is an insidious thing. It could also form as a motivator for some people. But, worshiping mammon is really...
Mammal?
Mammon. Yeah, it's a biblical term, mammon.
Is it like breast milk?
But money, basically worshiping money and striving for that as a sole focus is really insidious. What do you think about that?
Well, you're a smart guy. How do you not understand vanity?
I like nice things. I like nice
No,
things.
but you're saying you agree with me. That's what people do, and there's a lot of people out there, a ton of people out there, but you don't understand why.
I don't understand that mindset of why
You don't understand people's vanity and
greed
and pride and wanting.
I don't.
Okay, so let me explain it to you because it's pretty simple. So everybody has different gifts. Some people don't even recognize any of their gifts, but people do want to be viewed as good at something. People want to be known as good looking or a good athlete or a breadwinner or a musician or an artist or a good person or funny or, people strive to be the best they can be in certain categories.
It sounds like insecurity is what I'm hearing.
Well, of course, vanity and pride and all that is tied to insecurity. So if someone isn't considered, they're a model or a great athlete or whatever, but maybe they are successful at business. And, you could be a regular guy or gal in all those other categories and still make a lot of money and work your way up to CEO and then how do you show that, hey, look at me. Here's how I'm good. I have a Porsche and I have $1 million house and I have a pool. So that's an area people can pursue without having those physical gifts.
Do people really care though? I mean,
Oh my gosh, yes.
I don't think so. I don't care. I
A
mean,
lot of people
maybe
do.
I'm different. Maybe I'm different.
I mean, a lot of people I know don't, and a lot of people value other stuff you just
Yeah.
rattled off. But I know plenty of people, and you see it all over the news and in Hollywood and
Well, we'll get into that.
professional athletes and musicians. But I know plenty of people that are, pushing the
Enamored,
limits.
and they're enamored by that.
Yeah, and they're pushing the limits of beyond their own means to live in a huge house with a huge yard and they want people to know that. I mean, I see it all around here.
It just seems so short-sighted. I mean, we're all leaving this world with the same as everyone else. Nothing, It just I don't know. It just seems short-sighted and shallow. But hey, maybe I'm an outlier in a lot of other ways. So maybe I'm an outlier in this way.
Listen, I don't live my life like that either, but I see it and I understand it. I don't agree with it, but I get it.
I don't get it. But
Yeah, but you can understand something. It doesn't mean you agree with it.
no, I don't understand that goal and that striving for something that has nothing to do with you, like to envy other people's lifestyle and worship that. I don't.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
it's the
understand that.
same as understanding a drug addict, right? You and I aren't drug addicts, but I see how it happens.
But don't you have to truly understand a drug addict? Wouldn't you have to have some experience with drugs? I mean, to truly understand it.
But at a high level, what I'm saying is I get how people can become addicted. I get how people that weren't addicted previously can become addicted. And I'm not that way, but I recognize it and I get it. Doesn't mean I agree with it or approve of it, and I'm hoping people get help. So
I don't think that I think we're going to disagree here. I don't think that you can fully understand people if you haven't lived that way. And so same
can
thing
you
with,
get it though? I mean,
yeah, a little bit. I guess we're
you
not
understand
going to agree. We're not
do you
going to agree on
understand
this.
people like vanilla and chocolate?
I understand,
What do you
but I
like?
don't.
What do you like, vanilla or chocolate?
I don't like either of them.
What's your favorite flavor?
Depends on what it is. I mean, if it was ice cream, it would probably be mint chocolate chip.
So if you're in an ice cream store and you order your mint chocolate chip, and right behind you somebody orders chocolate, do you go, "Oh my gosh, I don't get that"?
No, I understand that's fine for them. But
Stop! You just answered your own question. These people that pursue
this show's going poorly. We're off on really bad tangents right
these
now.
people that pursue material wealth, that's for them. It's right for them, not for you.
All right, we're out of the rat hole now. All right, so let's transition to what traditionally, and we'll just say in this country right now, there was this definition of success that, and again, I'm paraphrasing, I'm generalizing, I'm stereotyping, I'm doing all that, but I think a lot of people would acknowledge that there was this phrase, the American dream. The American dream was owning a home, educating your kids, preferably higher than your own education, and contributing positively to society, living a life of character and humility and self-sacrifice. There was this book, The Greatest Generation, which was the World War II generation, and they were classified as these types of traits. And a lot of people thought that was, success. If you lived your life that way and you did things over a long period of time, you did things long-term thinking in mind. You built wealth over time. You didn't take out debt. And that world, respect for authority, respect for elders, that world seems to be dying to me. So before we go on to kind of what the new generations are looking for as success, what are your thoughts on that? Was that bogus? Did that really ever exist? Or was that the definition of success and American dream?
Well, yes, but first, I still don't understand how you would choose mint chocolate chip as your favorite ice cream. But yes, that was absolutely true. Just look at your parents and grandparents. I look at my parents and grandparents. There was pride in hard work and giving your family an opportunity better than what they had. And each generation tried to improve upon it. And I think that was very real. There was a lot of practical, logical people. And then, we've done other episodes on this topic, including helicopter parenting. I think our generation took it a step too far and then tried to do everything for their kids and hand them a gravy train. And this is probably part of your premise.
It may be. I don't know if we'll deal with all the root causes or not. I'm just trying to, through observation and research that I've done, it just seems that the newest generations, and what we're talking about here is millennials, Gen Zs, which are right after millennials, and then there's a new generation we talked about again in the helicopter book, was called iGen. So they're like really early 20s now. But the things that they seem to worship, and again, I'm generalizing here, is celebrity. I mean, to me, that's the biggest change that let's face it, Donald Trump was a celebrity. It had everything to do with how he got elected president. And the Kardashians, all the stuff that's social media influencers, this celebrity culture, I think, and valuing celebrity over the more traditional, respecting things of long-term accomplishment. Where did that come from? Did we baby boomers breed that into these millennials?
Technology. So look at when I grew up, there was just as many celebrities out there as far as pro athletes, musicians, actors, actresses, politicians, whatever. But I didn't really see much or hear much of them. We had limited access to television and radio, limited access to, you'd read maybe something in a newspaper, but we weren't inundated with information overload about these celebrities. So, interesting Gerald Ford, or, interesting, Dr. J, or interesting John Wayne. But that was kind of removed, and I never identified. I think most people didn't identify with those special people. And then you forgot about it because it was out of sight, out of mind most of the week. But today, 24/7, internet, YouTube, Instagram, InstaChat, Twitter, we're hit, and they're typically mostly celebrities,
right?
And then they're just splashed all over photos and it's everywhere, and it's 24/7 in our face, and that's why I think this celebrity thing is now.
But why is it valued? Why do the younger generations value celebrity? What has a celebrity done largely? What have they done to warrant that?
It's marketing exposure. I think if
but if you're a smart millennial, what do you look at and say, boy, that's something to be admired about? What's in their core that has to be admired other than their looks?
Looks, wealth, fame, cars, boats, partying, fun. I mean, right? The newer generations are looking for fun, and not again that we're not talking about everybody in
Right.
case
No.
somebody's listening. There are some harder working millennials or iGen folks than the current baby boomers, but for the most part, I think they're addicted to fun. And studies have shown, very in-depth studies by many different groups, that they don't want to work 60-hour weeks for 50 years. They actually want shortcuts, and
Right.
and who has the most fun out there is typically these celebrities, or at least the perceived fun.
Yeah, and this focus on now is what a lot of these surveys come up with, the short-sightedness, I guess, or short-termism. The focus on the now, for sure, the millennial generation is all part of that. Making an impact is another big thing that they want, and with their jobs, the social responsibility that comes along with their jobs, finding freedom and flexibility, the work-life balance. A lot. I hear stories. Obviously, we have friends that are our age, and a lot of their kids come out, and they'll be offered a great job, but they have to move, and the kids will be like, "Nah, I don't want to move." And so it seems like prior generations, when we came out, if Ernst & Young offered someone a great job, but they had to move to San Francisco, when we were coming out of school, it'd be no question. You just go. And nowadays, the millennial generation, and I guess I admire them for this, is they don't prioritize work like prior generations, and they think a little bit more short term. And maybe their values are better aligned. And if you think about what we just said of our definition of success, maybe they're more aligned with the way it should be. But I do think that that short-termism has some consequences, and we can talk about some of the stuff that's going on with our government and some of our long-term problems too.
Are you going to mention libertarian?
Probably. But no, aesthetics, fame, likes, followers, friends, all this is kind of more short-termism, celebrity, aesthetic. I don't think that's necessarily the right track, although I do admire some of their traits of deprioritizing the monetary success.
Well, there's a big difference between life-work balance and out of balance. All right, so I believe our generation, maybe our parents' generation as well, was kind of out of balance. All right, people were willing to work 70, 80, 90-hour work weeks. Some still are in the medical profession and CEOs. And then a lot of those people come from broken families because they had spent no time with their spouse or kids, and those kids, are worse off than...
That was the cost.
That was the cost. So, yeah, I mean, if you can get back to 30, 40, 50-hour work weeks, Europe is already decades ahead of us in this.
Right. But the problem is that Europe is also a good case study for this. There's a huge amount of debt that's being accumulated, but both at a societal level, but also these millennials don't want to work hard, but they're coming out, a lot of them, with $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in debt. They're not buying homes. So this traditional path that they're rejecting, which is kind of come out, pay off your debts, get homes, buy homes, raise families, they're upending all that. And yes, it's good that they're looking for fun and experiences over accomplishment, but they don't have all their ducks in a row. Evidently, they're forgetting about the financial part of it, and life is expensive.
They definitely don't have their ducks in a row. And where I was going with this out of balance was, let's take the workaholic, insane work ethic, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and get it back to 40-hour weeks and 40 hours with your family. But now it's going the other direction. So I just read an article on a very in-depth study based on surveys of millennials and iGen folks, like 10,000 kids. And the majority of them are looking for 20 to 30-hour work weeks and only 15-year careers. So, and then they dive in deeper.
I mean,
and with an expectation to be able to retire after 15 years with enough money accumulated for the rest of their life. And when you dive in deeper to the survey, here's the infuriating part. Because everybody then asks, like you're laughing, well, how's that possible? Where's that going to come from? How are you going to sustain 35, 40, 45, 50 years after you retire at age 37? Because the majority expect to inherit at least $1 million from their parents. So that now makes more sense. But where does this come from? Right. So part of it's the helicopter parenting and entitling our children. So I don't totally blame these millennials now, Jen, because they've been teed up for this expectation. But that's where some of this comes from. Right. So now it's completely out of balance on the opposite end.
I'm going to reference even another show, going back to our personal finance show, which was one of my favorites, by the way, back in the fall. It was my lecture, right?
That was your lecture.
But no, a lot of baby boomers are not prepared financially for retirement or for life. They don't have $1,000 saved. 40% of them don't have an extra $1,000 saved. So these are the people instructing millennials on finances. And these are the millennials that are going to college, getting sociology degrees, not to blast that, but unfortunately lesser degrees, and coming out with huge debt. And they don't understand the finances behind life. You have to run it like a business, like I told you. And it just doesn't work. And 15 years work life, it doesn't work unless you do inherit multi-millions.
Well, here's what was infuriating about it when I thought about this deeper. Because, you know what? A lot of them are going to inherit $1 million from the parents. If you know that, that'll probably alter your work ethic and expectations. But here's what I thought when I heard that. What are you going to do for your children then? So if you're expecting this from your parents, but you're not going to put the time in and build up the wealth and your 401k and your retirement, then what are you going to leave for your children? You're basically admitting you're going to take on the prior generation's wealth to your benefit, but you're not going to leave anything and put the work in for your kids. That sounds extremely selfish, self-centered, self-absorbed. And then that's probably where some of this celebrity and have fun generation mentality comes from.
Yeah, but I would argue that if anyone should be guilty of self-centeredness, it's our generation. The baby boomers are notoriously self-centered. They're the ones that aren't prepared financially. Yes, there will be some people that leave millions of dollars to their kids. But if you look at the statistics, baby boomers are live for the moment people as well, and they've not saved for retirement. They're not going to be passing on en masse huge amounts of wealth because they're going to need it to just live out their 80s and 90s in a nursing home. A lot of wealth is going to be drained that way. Baby boomers, I think, are the worst offenders of any generation so far in not looking to the next generation.
Great. Thanks, Mark. You're a baby boomer.
Well, I am. I am a baby boomer. And I say that generally we didn't do a very good job, and we're not doing a good job raising financially literate millennials, because that survey you referenced just points out how clueless people are. Well, all right, we got to move on. Final comments on
my final comment is at least you weren't clueless getting a master's in sociology from Wharton, University of Pennsylvania.
Hey, I got a $20,000 job out of that.
How about that? Do you still have any student debt?
No, I never did. I paid for it as I went.
Listen to that, folks. Hey, I hope people realize success isn't how many yachts you're water skiing behind. It's
how much avocado toast you can have with a cafe latte.
Yeah, it's how many vacations you can take.
That's what the millennial definition is.
So seriously, take care of your families, take care of your friends, take care of the environment, take care of people that are in need, and you know what? You'll be remembered well.
And I'll leave it with Max Lucado had a famous saying: "Make your decisions in a cemetery." I may have used that on the show before, but I think that's we highlighted it earlier in the show. You know, at your funeral, how do you want people to summarize your life? And I think you can make decisions and prioritize your life according to that. If you want to be remembered and be, quote, a success in a certain way, define it, and then map backwards of the activities you need to do and prioritize your time accordingly. And by the way, it's not how good you look in an Instagram photo that's been photoshopped. I would argue that no matter what generation you are, that's not something to strive towards, because death will come to all of us. We're all going to look like a bag of bones at some point.
Dilly, and I still hate mint chocolate chip ice cream.
All right, you're just wrong. All right, we're going to end the show on a couple of things that you would want to emulate if you wanted to be successful. And again, This does not have anything to do with money. So this is based on the book, and if you're old like Rich and I, you've read this book. I haven't done it for 25 years, but it's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. If you are a millennial or an iGen, I encourage you to read it. It's a little dated, but it has some very good edicts. You like that word?
It doesn't talk about colored people, does it?
Like Kate Smith, you mean?
Yeah, that would be very outdated.
Yeah, that would be. All right, so let's quickly run through these. So first is be proactive. Don't sit and wait in a reactive mode. Any thoughts on that, Richie?
Absolutely.
All right, second one, begin with the end in mind. I just talked about that. If you want to map to something, you got to know where you're going. And you set a goal and you map backwards about how to get there.
Agreed.
Envision the future that you want. Thirdly, first things first. So prioritize. So in his book, he says there's 4 areas of prioritization. Urgent and important. You got to do that with deadlines and crisis. Not urgent, but also important. That's a long-term development. Third is urgent, but not important, and you want to delegate that to others. And then the fourth is not urgent and not important. And what do you do with that? You get rid of it. You don't even think about it any further.
Correct.
All right. So then the second 4 through 7 are you want win-win. I hate this term because it got overused for 20 years. But if you think about it, every transaction in life should be of mutual beneficiality. And I always use this in my business dealings that, and this is where Trump has it wrong. He thinks people, take advantage of other people, and that's winning a deal. No, everything that's voluntary has to be a win-win. So Stephen Covey brought this on many, many years ago, and it's totally true. You have to think of ways that both people can win as you go through life.
That's better than lose-lose.
And that sometimes happens too, by the way. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. This is something that not everyone does. I don't know that I do this very well. It's something I need to work on.
That's why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth.
It is, but it's very rare to be able to do that effectively. A lot of people have ideas in their mind, and one of my goals is to continually learn, and I'm not always that good at it.
Vote Libertarian.
Synergize. Combine the strengths of people through positive teamwork. I'm more of an independent mindset, so I wouldn't say that's my best attribute, but that's something that you definitely want to go towards. And then lastly, Rich, as I just mentioned it, sharpen the saw. And that's basically build a lifestyle and make life choices to reinforce and provide that balance and that reinforcement of success. So that's a long book, long time ago. This book came out, but I think you've read it. What are your thoughts on those principles?
Great book, great read.
And that's all you got, huh?
Well, you said we were in a hurry.
Well, no, we still got a couple minutes. But,
no,
but do you agree with that or no?
Absolutely. How could you have to be an idiot to disagree with any of it. It's solid advice. It's ageless advice.
Has nothing to do with money.
Has nothing to do with money. And the guy was a genius. Absolutely.
May he rest in peace, by the way.
I didn't know he was passed away.
I believe so. About 4 or 5 years ago. All right, folks, make sure you listen to the next show when we talk about the opioid crisis. This is kind of a serious subject, but it's if you've been paying attention, the life expectancy in the United States has dropped for 3 consecutive years. The last time that happened was during World War I, when there was also an influenza pandemic. And it's
not to mention hundreds of thousands of people dying.
Of course, yeah, but there was also World War II, and it didn't happen then. So it's a real problem. There's a lot of opioid overdose deaths. There's a lot of suicides out of despair, and we're going to talk about that next episode. As always, please remember, if what you see or hear sounds idiotic, then we're just the guys to help you sort it out. See y'all next episode. Take care.
Thank you for listening. Please download, subscribe, share, and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, and also our website.